Mic check, 1, 2. Welcome back to another episode of the Second Half Podcast. We got another amazing episode coming your way. First thing you definitely have to do, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Be sure to check us out on our website at thesecondhalfpod.com. So without further ado, we have the amazing, talented, extremely creative, the homie, Miss Taylor Berner joining the podcast today. We get a good episode. Let's get it. How you doing?
Let's get it. I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So, starting from the top, I want to understand, like, where'd you grow up at? Like, where are you from? Where'd the journey start for you?
Yeah. So I'm from New York, from a very small town on Long Island called Port Jefferson. Most people from the city, when you say how far it is, it's exit 62 on the LIE. It's like literally one of the last exits.
Wow.
So like very small beach town. There was like 100 people in my graduating class. It's like one of those towns where you went to preschool with the people that you were in high school with.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. So grew up there, but then actually in 11th grade, I moved to the city because I went to Christ the King in Queens to play basketball. So
nice.
Yeah, had a different upbringing than my peers because I ended up being a city kid when I was 15. So that was different.
So moved out from the burbs, way out in Long Island area, Lower East Side, and you decided, the family, you're like, all right, you want to go to Christ the King to play basketball. But even before you even get into basketball, like, what was the family dynamic for you? Like, how'd you grow up? What was kind of the background in, in that area? I know you said you knew everyone in your area where you were growing up at, but, for your family, how was that for you?
Yes. So I come from a really big family. I have 6 brothers and sisters, 5 sisters, 1 brother. So we're a lot of women in one place. Yeah. But we're spread out. So it was never like 7 of us in the house. I mostly grew up with my 3 older sisters and my parents. When I was in high school, though, my parents did get separated. So that was, and I was back and forth from the city. So there was some like stuff to work through in that in my childhood. But yeah, pretty much I spent all my time with my dad because we were doing AAU stuff and, workouts and all of that. But yeah, I had a really good childhood, actually. My dad, I had a great childhood. It was, your regular stuff, but it was good. I had my sisters that I looked up to and they kind of raised me. So, cause my parents are both business owners and entrepreneurs. So, they were always out kind of doing their thing.
Nice.
But the one thing I will always say about my family is we always ate dinner together. So that was something that was like very important to us. We would wait till like 8:30 at night and we'd still be eating dinner together just so we could get everybody, at the table. So that was always cool.
No, that's awesome to have those family foundational traditions that, I wonder if you actually still stay with those, like, as you guys have all gotten older. Do you guys still get together for dinner and sit around when you guys are all at home too?
Oh yeah. When we're all in the same house, we have like my mom's dinner table now fits like 12 people. So everyone can fit at the table.
Yeah.
But even like if we're out of town, like going to dinner is kind of like our family thing. And I'm like that with even with my friends and stuff. I'm like, we need to have Sunday dinner. We need to everybody, let's get together and have dinner. You bring your people, I'll bring my people. I'm very much family oriented across my life now. Especially because I live in Chicago and I had to make a family here because none of my family's here.
For sure. No, I get that for sure. So as you said, you were with your dad a lot, and obviously we know you ended up going into basketball, which we'll get into in a little bit. But were there any other sports that your dad kind of had you grooming you in within athletics?
I did everything. Like growing up, like little elementary school, I did everything. Softball, soccer. I remember being like 12 years old and I was the goalie for the U18 team. Like somehow I was a really good goalie. I think it's because I was like long.
Yeah.
I was really tall. But and I like jumping in the mud. That was my thing too. Like I loved like those rainy soccer practice days.
Of course. Of course.
So I did that. And then in high school, middle school, I did I did track and field. I like threw the shot put in the discus.
Oh, nice.
Definitely not any running. So like more field than track. And I played volleyball, but I think mostly because I wanted to wear the shorts. But that's a whole other thing.
A whole, yeah. A whole nother conversation. No, so that's awesome that you had that athletic kind of infatuation, if you will, and prowess that you wanted to get after playing soccer, to track, to track and field, to that obviously you fell in love with the game of basketball. When did you start finally playing the game of basketball?
I started when I was 8 years old. My older sister, she's 3 years older than me. We played in the Infant Jesus League. It was like the local church league.
Okay.
And my dad was the coach. And I started playing just because my sister was playing. And didn't even realize at the time, like I always knew I was taller than everyone, but I didn't even realize like what was really going on. And then I just stuck with it. And obviously I kept growing and realizing like, okay, I'm like a foot taller than everyone in my grade. So yeah, I was 8 years old. And then I was on my first AAU team in the 6th grade with my sister also.
I got you. Okay. So you at least had your sister there to kind of help shape you. Was she pretty good at basketball too when she was growing up, or was it just an activity?
She won't listen to this. So no, she was not very good. No, she was more of a leader.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's fine. She was more of a leader. Like she was the captain of the varsity team, I think, like her freshman year. Like she was just like kind of the person that everyone looked up to. She was okay. She could shoot a little bit. Yeah. But overall, no, she was not.
Yeah. So like you said, you started playing AAU ball. You were playing with a lot of the older girls along your journey. Who was that person that was like really mentoring you and pushing you through basketball?
Yeah, so my high school coach, his name was Mr. Riley. No one called him by his first name. He was Mr. Riley to everybody. But his son, Mark, he played football at Maryland. But then after, he was just always around and started helping the coach. And he and I got super close. Okay. So like in season, out of season, he was the one picking me up at 6 a.m. to go run the hills in town and then go to work out, get lunch, go back to the gym. Like during the summers, we were spending 12 hours a day working out.
Oh, wow.
And just like kicking it and hanging out and stuff. So yeah, Mark and I were like super, super tight. We still talk to this day here and there, but yeah, he was the one that really like invested in me as a player.
So that's awesome that you just like, luckily became like a coach's son, who ultimately became a friend and probably family along the way because of how often you guys were all together and just grinding. And obviously him knowing the needs that you had to put in and the work ethic that you had to put into the game. Like he was the one that kind of helped bring that to you and usher you into the game a little bit further.
Yeah, he was like mentor, friend, coach, trainer. He was kind of everything. He was the one that would like, if I was slacking off, he'd be like, yo, I'll just take you home. Like, if you don't want to be here, I'll just take you home. Yeah. And like, he would really do it. So he kind of helped me to understand like hard work and like the value of your time and all that kind of stuff. And then of course my dad was there for everything. He didn't miss a game of practice. He would pull up with his little chair in his back seat. He was there. My dad was there for everything. We went everywhere together.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. You always need that support system. You need that tough love, but then you also need the one that just kind of helps show you and be that father around to help groom you too, kind of off the court, which is always, you need that.
Yeah. And he didn't know, my dad knows he didn't know anything about basketball. So he was more of like he would always tell me to box out. That was the one thing he knew. Everything else basketball wise, he pretty much would like shut up about, other than if he was like yelling at a ref.
Yep.
But he was more of like those like soft skills, like, okay, you committed to this, so you need to stick with it.
Yeah.
Or like, you said you wanted to get better, so why aren't you outside jump roping? And like stuff like that. So he wasn't like the X's and O's of basketball. He was more of like you need to be a good person.
Hey, those help. You can use those tools that your dad gave you to even apply yourself to life, apply those things to life. And that's what pretty much what I love about dads, right? Me being a dad, right? Trying to do that with my daughter, right? Shout out
girl dad.
Yeah, shout out girl dads. So obviously you had the development, you had the right coach, you had the right person who was helping train you. When did you know that you were like, oh, I can play basketball, like I'm good?
I think it was that first AAU team. That was like my first time really venturing outside of my little town. And I went to this town that was like 30 minutes away. It's called Wyandanch. And it was like I was the only white girl on the team.
Yeah.
So I pulled up, and it's me and my sister and my dad, who's like a little Jewish man. And we're like, hey, what's up? We're here to try out for the team. And then I made the team. And that was like and not only did I make the team, I was playing on the team. Like I wasn't just like riding the bench. So I think it was then when I started to mix in with all of these other girls that were having looks from St. John's and Seton Hall and in 7th grade.
Yeah.
So it's like, you kind of, once you're in those spaces, you're like, oh shit, like I'm here too. Yeah. Like we're on the same team.
Yeah.
Or like even like Stephanie, I talk about this all the time, but like Stephanie Dolson and I started, like that's where we met, was in the 7th, 8th grade playing AAU together. So like when you're around people like that, you're like, oh shit, like you're here, I'm here. So like,
right.
We both must be doing something right.
I'm going, right. We can play. So I'm not saying I'm just as good as you or better, but like, let's figure it out on the court together and see what we can actually do.
Yeah.
No, I love that.
And then of course, like you start getting those letters from schools, and you're getting like stacks of letters, and you're like, wait, they want me to come visit their school. Like, then it starts to click, like, okay, this is really something.
Tell me a little bit about that. Well, actually, before we even get to your recruiting process, but tell me a little bit about like what it was. Because you said, going to Christ the King, they're a huge prowess in basketball and girls basketball in general, right? They're a powerhouse. Your AAU team, you obviously had some notable names there on the East Coast from New York. That area, like, what was that playing experience like, for you?
At Christ the King?
Yeah.
It was a culture shock first. Because, again, I grew up in Port Jefferson, which is like super white, Jewish, waspy town.
Yep.
And then I moved to the city, and I'm going to a school in Queens where it's just like melting pot of everybody. And I had to make new friends at 15 years old, which sucks.
Yep.
Because kids at 15 suck.
Yep.
But luckily I had teammates. Actually, one of my teammates, Tahira, she's still one of my best friends to this day. Like, I was in her wedding. So I made friends, but it was a culture shock. That was the first thing. And then secondly, it was, you realize how many people around you are just as committed as you. Because coming from a place like Port Jeff, it's like people play different sports. There's like some people that are really committed to their sports, but it's like they're more seasonal sports. I was a year-round basketball player. So you get to this school where everyone's a year-round basketball player. So you kind of have to, like, how are you going to be better than them? How are you going to show out better than them?
Yeah.
So I was going in, I would drive in or take the train in. I would do 6 a.m. workouts before school. And not many other people were doing that. But I was like, okay, how can you have one up on these people who are already doing what you're already doing?
Yeah.
So yeah, that was definitely, it was an awakening moment for sure. Like, okay, you're not that hot. Like, chill out.
Yeah. You're playing against some people who actually do this on the year-round schedule, just like you. And it's like, okay, how do I figure this thing out? Which is always a good environment to be in, right? Being in that environment of people who are like-minded like you and want to be the best, and you have something in common. That's always a great situation to be in, because you could always pick the phone up and say, hey, we're going to the gym. It's 5:30 in the morning. Like, okay, I'm on my way. Like, there is no pushback, which is always great. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And it's like the difference between being a big fish in a small pond or a small fish in a big pond. Like, that was that was like the transition of my life in like a year.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, now you're just with all the other small fishes in this big pond.
In the big pond, yeah, so, for sure.
Yeah.
Did you guys win a few titles there while you were there?
We won a state championship.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. There we go. We got one banner up there. Love it. Love it. So after you won that state championship, did that open up the recruiting process for you, where you started getting the piles and piles and garbage bags of letters from coaches?
Yeah. Well, it was even before that, because my AAU team was really good.
Yeah.
We were like 2-time national champions at that point already. And everyone was getting D1 looks, like high D1 looks. But I was lucky. Stony Brook, where I ended up going, offered me my freshman year, I think it was. So I had that offer this whole time, but I was like, I don't want to stay close to home. Stony Brook is 10 minutes from Port Jefferson from my house. It was like the team that I grew up watching as a kid. Yeah. So I had that offer, but I was like, I want to go away. I want to go to college. Like, I don't want to stay home. So then I had a couple other looks, but it ended up being Stony Brook. It was like family. Yeah. And it was cool. Like my dad, my parents were like season ticket holders, like courtside season ticket holders. My whole family, everyone could come to games. Like I was the hometown kid on the team. So it ended up being a really cool experience.
That's awesome. So before you tell me a little bit about what the recruiting process was, because, I've had a few different conversations and everyone's is different, right? So what's the recruiting process like when, from the women's collegiate perspective that you had to go through?
A lot of phone calls.
Yeah.
Always phone calls. And then it was just, the visits were cool because it was like you go there and they kind of treat you like you're a celebrity. Now it's crazy the things that they do. Like, oh my gosh, like the photo shoots that the kids get. I'm like, wait, are you committed? They're like, no, we just did a photo shoot. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
So it was cool, like going and being able to hang out with the girls, and like all the visits that I went on, I stayed with one of the girls. I'm not sure if everyone does that, but I stayed with one of the girls. I didn't stay at the hotel.
Okay.
So I really got like a college experience for the weekend.
Nice.
Which was really cool. I actually committed to Stony Brook at a party at the men's basketball house. I was lit for sure.
Of course.
I can say this now, like 13, 14 years later, which is crazy to say. But it was definitely lit with the team at like men's basketball house. They were having a party. And I was like, I want to come here. And they were like, call coach right now. And I was like, okay. And I literally called the coach while I was
wow.
at the party. Yeah.
No family integration. Like the family, they didn't know anything. The friends, they didn't know. You just were in the moment like, I'm coming.
My parents were pretty like hands off. Like, this is your decision. So like we would have conversations about it, but I also like loved the allure of like keeping it a secret.
Yeah.
So like even when I decided I was going to Christ the King, I remember I like picked a day where I was like, okay, I'm going to announce it on this day if I'm going to go. And we had like a family phone call where everyone conferenced in, and it was like, okay, I'm going. So like I loved like those big moments.
Nice.
So yeah, I did that with college too.
Okay.
I just kind of did it.
Nice. I got you. Well, obviously you made it through and you figured out. And so now you transition. You've already had the coaching around, you had your coach's son to be able to train you and develop the skill set. You had the AAU platform. Now you've transitioned into the collegiate game. So what were some of those things that you kind of realized this isn't high school anymore for you?
Running a mile in 8 minutes.
Yeah. It usually starts with conditioning, doesn't it?
Oh my God. They used to call it Breakfast Club. And it was for those of us that couldn't make the mile or the 2 mile or whatever it was in the time. And it was 6 a.m. every day. The whole team would have to go to cheer you on, but we had to keep running basically until we made it. I don't think I ever made it because that's just like a terrible that's just like, no one's going to make it in that. But like, you get more tired as you run. You don't get more energy. So yeah, that was definitely one, like conditioning and working out. And just like the amount of time that you had to put in on your own, I think, like without a trainer or without a coach, because I was used to always having someone with me.
Yeah.
So, or being like, hey, I'm coming to get you. Let's go. So that was another thing. And then also, I just, you know me, like I just like to have a good time too. So I was like known as like the party person, but I really wasn't even partying that much. But I think just like my personality and like I was friends with a lot of people and all of that. So I definitely got a bad rap for that.
Already, first stepping in, guys are like, we're going to get you on this mile, and we know you're the party girl, so we're going to even go at you harder.
My freshman year, I got randomly drug tested twice. I was like, no one gets randomly drug tested twice in a year when it's random between the entire athletics department. So it was like they were picking certain people in the entire athletics department. I was randomly chosen twice. Like, no way. They were definitely like thought I was doing stuff I wasn't supposed to be doing. For the record, it was negative every time.
Got you. No, I love it. So, you know, you're playing the game. What were some of those highlights in college that you had? Yep, you get the flex. I want to hear all about those.
No, there's no flex. My college experience was really tough, to be honest. We had like four head coaches, I think.
Oh wow!
In the time that I was there, like it was the coach that recruited me since I was a freshman got fired in February of my freshman year.
Oh wow!
So then it was an interim coach, then it was another coach and another coach. So I had a tough experience.
Yeah.
I mean, highlight was definitely the people that I met. Like some of my teammates are still some of my best friends. So, and to be honest, we weren't winning a lot. So like, I can't say that like we had this great playing career and like that was all good because it really wasn't. It was tough, but I think it made me resilient too. And just like, I stuck with it. I could have left and went to a D2 or went to a different D1. Like I could have left, but I stuck it out. And whatever the coach told me to do, I hit those marks. Like I made that 8-minute mile and my coach literally almost fell over and was like, wait, what? And like, looked at the conditioning coach and was like, wait, what was the time? And he was like 7:59. And she was like, wait, what? And I'm just like laying there dead. But I was like, okay, I trained for that all summer. So like those moments were cool for me just to like, she gave me goals and I hit them every time. They didn't translate to playing time because she was who she is. But like those were the exciting moments.
Yeah. No, there's something to be said about that of like, you know, still pushing through, still going through the moment, still going through your own journey and your experiences, even knowing that you may not see the court or you may not, you know, play as much as you expected to play. Because I'm sure coming from a top tier AAU team, playing with the best, coming from a top high school team, and all of a sudden you're at this school and now all of a sudden you aren't playing as much as you thought it was. And in some instances, it's not because of your talent. Some it's just about the situation that, you know, you're in at that very moment. So, you know, kudos to you and making sure that you're still fighting for and still meeting those goals that you kind of set on court. So, of course, no, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. I was just going to say, when you're being recruited, they make everyone feel like they're LeBron James.
Yeah.
So then you get there and it's like only 5 people can be up on the court.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. You always have to realize that. And it's a numbers game. It's a numbers, it's experience. It's who's up, who's, you know, and that's the other transition that people don't realize is you're leaving high school. Like, yes, you're a senior and maybe a juniors on your team. Right. But when you're at that next level, you've got transfers, you've got you know, JUCO players coming over. You aren't just the high school freshman. Like you're playing with grown women and grown men on the court, so it's different now. And that's where people have to realize that, you know, when you make that transition, the way you think that it was going to be, it may not be that. And the way that they, like you said, they sold you into it, they don't tell you all the things about, oh, here's who else we're recruiting, or we're looking at actually putting at the 4 or the 3, we're looking to also bring in a transfer who has experience from playing. You know, they don't tell you those things in being, you know, realistic with you. They see you as a player for now, and are like, we just want to get you on the roster and we'll figure out the rest along the way.
Basically. Yeah.
So, of course, you know, you talked about some of those goals that you hit. Of course, that 8-minute mile is huge. But did you have any goals off the court that helped position you into, you know, life after basketball? Did you have any thoughts about that, or were you just in the zone of being a college student?
Truthfully, I had no idea. Like, I was so lost.
Yeah.
Like, I remember graduation day, I was miserable. Like, for most people, that's like so exciting. I remember my graduation party was happening and I was laying in my bedroom because I was just like, what the hell am I about to do?
Yeah.
And I had like different things. The one thing I will say was consistent through all the different things that I tried or thought about was sports.
Yeah.
Like, I knew I wanted to work in sports in some way. So I tried the physical therapy thing. Biology and chemistry were not my thing.
Nope.
I tried the like economics major thing, not my thing. So it was just like, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but that's actually why I went overseas. Because I was like, all right, like, this will give me some more time. I can keep playing. This will be a good experience, make some money, have some fun.
Yeah.
So that's actually why I went overseas.
Okay. So it's interesting, like, tell me a little bit about that experience and space that you were in. Like, right, you were graduating, even before that, like, you were going through these classes of physical therapy, and that was it because of the rigory of the class, or was it the fact that you just probably didn't have enough time to study because of the demands of basketball? Or none of those.
Studying.
Okay.
It was really that I hate studying, and it just wasn't things that made sense to me, or like that would like stick with me.
Yep.
So it just wasn't like, sometimes things just aren't for you.
Yeah.
It just wasn't topics that I truly cared about.
Yeah. As you thought it would be.
And I'm the type of person. Yeah. And I'm the type of person, like, if I don't care about something, I'm just kind of done.
Yeah.
So I ended up being a women and gender studies major because that stuff was interesting to me. It was like, it was cool topics. I wrote papers. I was a really good writer. I could write 10-page papers the night before they were due and get an A.
Yeah.
So I picked that, and I was like, I'll just get the degree, and basically like a liberal arts degree.
Yep.
Cool. And then I'll figure it out later. Yeah, I like thought about being an agent, and then I was like, oh, then I have to go to law school. It was just like, yeah.
But obviously, you still had an opportunity to extend your playing career even post college. So, hit Stony Brook. Then, where'd you end up going to play?
So I went to Israel for the summer. I played in the Maccabiah game. So I had tried out for the team in 2009, and for people that don't know what the Maccabiah Games is, it's actually the third largest sporting event in the world behind the Olympics and the World Cup. But it's basically the Olympics for anyone with Jewish blood of some sort. So it's 10,000 athletes from all different countries around the world come for the games every 4 years in Israel in the summer. And I had tried out in 2009 when I was about to be a freshman in college, and I made the team, but I decided not to go because I didn't want to miss my freshman summer at college and the workouts and stuff. So I didn't go. And then I tried out again in 2013 when I was a senior, and I didn't make the team. So I was like, damn, like, I really wanted to go this time. Yeah. They call me in like March or something. Season had just ended. They were like, hey, someone dropped out. You were next on our list. Do you want to come to the games? And I was like, yeah, I definitely want to come.
Nice.
So I ended up going over there it was like 2 months, and I won a gold medal with Team USA.
Oh, dope.
And while I was there, yeah, it was actually a really cool experience.
Yeah.
They run it exactly like the Olympics.
Okay.
So it was really dope. Like, the opening ceremonies with the torches and like all of that. It was insane. So while I was there, like a lot of people in Israel started seeing my name on the roster. So I got hit up by an agent, and he was like, "Hey, I can help you get your Israeli citizenship. Come play over here as a local, and you can have a long career here."
Oh, wow.
And I was like, "Okay, cool." So I went through the whole process, did the interview, got my citizenship. And when I was there, I had a bunch of meetings with teams.
Mm-hmm.
So my first team that I played for, I signed the contract while I was there for the games, was Herzliya. Okay. And so I was with Herzliya for a few months, and then it was a mess.
Yeah.
So they traded me to another team called Petah Tikva, and I ended up playing with Petah Tikva for the rest of that season and my next season.
Okay. So what's that experience like? I love the journey that you kind of went through. You followed your passion. You got to experience something with the Maccabi games, and you're now in a whole new world of basketball that's beyond the collegiate and high school games. So now tell me a little bit about what that kind of the expectations were while you were playing, as now you're no longer a collegiate athlete, but your expectations of a professional athlete now.
I didn't realize it, and I don't know if this is just me, but it's your job at that point. Like, they're paying for you to be there, so the expectations are so much higher. And so, like, for instance, when I got there, we got into practices, I sprained my ankle, like a high ankle sprain. Like, it was huge, bruised, the whole thing. And after 2 days, they're like, "Okay, you need to get back on the court." And I'm like, "Wait, like, I can't walk." Like, "What do you mean?" They're like, "We're paying you. You need to get on the court." So it was like, those are the types of things you don't, I guess, realize going into it. It's like, the stakes are much higher than what you could imagine. And the expectations are much higher because the club's money is on the line.
Yep. The club's on the line for sure. Now, while you were there, did they take care of everything for you, or did you have to come out of pocket on anything?
Yeah, they took care of my house and my car.
Okay.
I had a couple roommates. I lived with the other Americans on the team, so either two or three people. But yeah, we had a car, and they paid for the house. Everything else, I came out of pocket, but I was there to just kind of have a good time.
Yeah, have the experience and enjoy it, right?
Yeah.
Be in Israel.
Yeah,
awesome.
I knew I wasn't going to be like a 10-year career type person. Yeah. Like, I was there to just figure my stuff out and get out. So I definitely made the most of the time. It was a good time.
Awesome. And so how many years were you playing there?
2 years.
Okay. Nice.
I quit after the first year, and then my agent hit me and was like, "Hey, they want you back." And I was, at the time, a sales counselor. I was selling gym memberships at LA Fitness. And I was like, "Yeah, I hate it here. I'll come back."
You come back, so yeah.
I hadn't worked out in like 3-4 months. I was like, "I'll figure it out." I went back. I was so out of shape.
You gotta love those stories where you just, I was just sitting around doing nothing, and then you show up and now you're dusting off the ankles and getting ankle braces out and
I thought I wasn't an athlete anymore.
Yeah, you're starting back from ground zero, and it doesn't take much to get out of that space, for sure. Cool. Love it. No, now from here, when was it that you realized, hey, it's time to go ahead and put these shoes up. It's time to figure things out post-career basketball life?
When I was still overseas, I started just getting like really angry. Like, going to practice would like anger me. And like, I was like yelling at my teammates. Like, I was just like, I didn't like who I was over there anymore. I could just like feel it. I was like, I'm done. Like, everything over here was just irritating me. Yeah. So I was like, probably time to go. I was also like, I started getting really anxious about my career, like after basketball.
Yep.
and like looking at all the people around me that were, you know, overseas for 10 years. And I was like, what are they going to do when they stop playing? Like now you're going to be competing for a job with the 23, 24-year-old.
Yep.
Like it's just, it gave me a lot of anxiety. And I was just like, it's probably time to go. Like I'm not even having a good time here anymore. So that was it. And I told my agent one day, I was like, hey, I took him out to dinner. I was like, hey, it was a Thursday. I don't know why I remember this. It was a Thursday. And I was like, I'm going to leave Monday because we had one more game. I was like, I'll stay for this game. I'm going to leave Monday. And he tried to get me to stay. And I was like, yeah, I'm just done.
It ain't happening.
Yeah, no, it wasn't happening.
Oh, good. No, I feel you. And sometimes you have to go through that and just have that conversation, being realistic with yourself, with just like, it's time. It's time. You know, it's not like it's injuries or anything like that. It's just like your mental is just like, I'm done with it. And that's okay. But also what I love you in speaking about that is like you started thinking about what was next while you were there and you were starting to game plan around that. What were some of the goals that you kind of put in place to say, like, you know, at least in college, you knew that you wanted to do something in sport, but you didn't know what it was. But like, what were the things that you kind of planned for then?
I still didn't know what I wanted to do, but I started Googling jobs in sports.
The key search.
I literally Googling everything, jobs in sports. And I just started applying to stuff. I didn't even know what I was applying to, honestly. I didn't like keep a list of it. I was just like pressing submit.
Yep.
To a million things.
Yep.
And then I was like, I'm going to move to Brooklyn. My sisters were in Brooklyn and in the city. So I was like, I'm going to go home. I'm going to move to Brooklyn. One of my friends needed a roommate. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go stay with my friend. And like my parents, thank God for them. They helped me along the way, like financially, obviously, because living in New York, can't do that without a job.
Yeah.
So I was only unemployed actually for like 3 weeks. And I had some savings from what I had overseas too. But I just Googling jobs in sports. One day I got a call and they were like, hey, we want to interview you for this job. I had no idea what it was because I didn't keep a log of what I applied for. So,
of course.
No idea. They were like, here's the address for the interview. And they gave me the address and it was literally like a block over from my apartment.
Perfect.
And I was like, wow, this is kind of crazy actually. So I go and they hired me on the spot. It was this, I don't even know what you call it, youth-led social justice organization. Okay. And it was basically, it was called Fit for Life NYC. And we would build programs for underserved communities, schools and charter schools and community clubs and things like that didn't have funding, or at the time it was a big thing that the New York DOE was removing gym class or PE class from all the schools because of funding. So we would come in and bring programming so that kids could move, because obviously all the studies show like kids are jittery in class and ADHD and all those kinds of things because they're sitting at a desk all day and you remove their PE class.
Yep, exactly.
So yeah, I was doing that and building programming. I was hiring instructors. I was training instructors. I was kind of just figuring it out as I went.
I love it. I love it. All right, right now, before we get into the second half of the conversation, we're going to do what I love to call a 30-second timeout. So we'll get into some quick hitter questions for you, and then we'll come right back to the conversation. So it's really just to get to know who you are, some random things about you. So we'll start it off. All right, 30-second timeout real quick. All right, first question. Where was your favorite place that you played basketball at through your career? Israel. Got you. All right. What's your favorite meal?
Pizza or chicken parm.
Pizza or chicken parm. Okay. Breakfast or dinner?
If I'm cooking, breakfast. If I'm going out, dinner.
Okay. What were your favorite shoes that you played in?
I believe they were the Hirachis, back in like 2006. I had these custom ones. that I'd like made the colors of my team. And on the back it said, people used to call me TJ Beast.
TJ Beast.
That was like my basketball name. Yeah. So I like customized the back.
There you go. I love it. Nike ID, all that fun stuff back then.
Yeah. It was like literally when Nike ID was brand new.
For sure. What is one album or song that you can listen to if you were stuck on an island? The only one that you
Graduation.
Kanye.
Graduation. Kanye West.
Okay. All right. If you were stuck on an island, what were the 3 things that you would bring?
My phone. My phone. Whoa, hard question. I don't know. Probably just my phone. I'd be good.
Phone. You're good with that? That's all you need? No food, no like water, no nothing, huh?
Okay, fine. I didn't know those words.
Anything in the world.
Fine. You're right. My phone, an endless supply of pizza, and some Gator Light, new Gatorade Fire.
Okay. All right. I'm with it. All right. What is your dream car that you would drive?
Right now, the Porsche Taycan. The electric Porsche.
Okay. Getting a little new age, a little Elon Musk-ish.
Oh yeah, I'm already
just saving the planet. Just saving the planet.
I'm already Oh, you know me.
All right. Last question. Who is the one person who has inspired you over the years?
My mom.
Okay. Any reason specifically why?
Yeah, no, she's the first person first woman I ever knew that was really a boss. That's your own thing.
Yep.
Kind of played by her own rules, built her business from the bottom. Yeah, she kind of like showed me who I can be. Love it.
I love it. No, that's a 30-second timeout. 10 quick questions for you with Taylor Burner. So getting back to the conversation, right? That the second half, what we're all here to talk about, right? So you talked about literally moving back in Brooklyn and you interview for a position that you get. Now you're in the weeds of like life after basketball. How did that kind of drive you to, okay, I know exactly what it is that I want to do? Where did it take you from there? Knowing that you still wanted to be in sports.
Yeah. So I still was figuring it out. I'm still figuring it out today, but I worked there for about a year and a half, and it was a super small company. It was really just me and 2-3 other people that worked there.
Okay.
So eventually it just kind of, and it wasn't a money-driven company.
Yeah.
We were working in communities that didn't have money. So it eventually went under, and I was the first person to get laid off. So that was a hit. I would remember just crying for days, watching Grey's Anatomy in my bed. No idea what I was going to do, but luckily, my family is a bunch of networkers. Everyone in my family networks.
Okay.
So my sister was working in the restaurant industry in New York, and she knew someone at Nike. And she sent my resume to him and was like, "Hey, my sister's desperate for an internship. Do you have anything?"
Yeah.
And he was like, "I don't know if you know Rocky, old school Nike Rocky."
Yeah. I know Rocky. Yeah, we worked on a few things together. Yeah.
He literally started my career. So he was like, "We don't have anything, but I'll send it to our agency." And that was Game 7. And so he sent it to the agency, and they basically hired me for what I think was a favor to Rocky for their internship program, which was starting a week later.
Okay.
Yeah. And because my sister was doing all the Carbone stuff.
Yep.
So they were like, "Oh, okay, cool."
Yep.
What they didn't really, I remember I had one conversation with the president of Game 7 on the phone for 5 minutes. And he was like, "Okay, cool. This is when the internship starts." I was like, "All right." So I was an intern at Game 7 for the summer. And then at the end of the summer, they offered me a job to stay on. I was freelance technically with them for about 6 months.
Yeah.
And then they hired me full time that following March. And then I was there for another year and a half almost.
Nice.
Yeah. And that's where I started working on all the Nike stuff. I remember my first Jordan. Remember Jordan in Vegas? With Travis Scott and Lil Yachty and that whole activation in the summer.
Yep.
So that was my first Jordan experience, and I kind of like weaseled my way into it because I was going to be in Vegas over the weekend for a bachelorette, and I could hear like in the office, I could hear people talking about this Vegas activation.
Yep.
So I found out when it was, and I was like, "Hey guys, I'll pay for my hotel. Just let me work on this project."
Yeah.
So I stayed for the week in Vegas, and that was like my first big Jordan project.
Nice.
Yeah. And then from there, it was just kind of natural with my experience, basketball, all that kind of stuff. I kept working on Nike projects. And then the following summer, it was, hey, do you want to move to Chicago? We have the Shy League and we have Rise Camp, and we want you to go run it.
A little bit of everything, huh?
Yeah. I was like, yeah, sure. Never been to Chicago, but sounds cool.
Of course, Chicago's cool.
Literally, I had never even, like, it wasn't even a city that was, like, on my radar.
Yeah.
Like, I would never even think, like, oh, let me go visit Chicago. I didn't know anyone from Chicago. It was just, like, a really random place to me. So, yeah, I came to Chicago for the summer, and that's kind of when my relationship with Nike Chicago started, and met some really great people and mentors, and, you know, Jen Cunningham, still my mentor to this day. Yeah. And then over the next year, working a ton with Nike Chicago, but from Brooklyn. And then they brought me back to Chicago for the next summer.
Yeah.
And at that point, I was kind of like running things. Like I had a good handle on everything that was going on. And I was kind of like working on my own, and they trusted me a lot, and Nike trusted me a lot. And I was being really underpaid and overworked. And I remember sitting in Jen's office, and she was like, do you want to move to Chicago? And I was like, sure. Like, I don't care. This was like in the middle of like when we were doing the family reunion stuff in Chicago. And she was like, do you want to move to Chicago? I was like, yeah, sure. And she was like, okay. And then within like 4 days, I had a job at Momentum to do the church.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's kind of how everything kind of fell into, right? It was just a phone call and a conversation from your sister that started and snowballed into, you know, building relationships and brand activation that you were leading here in Chicago, which is awesome.
Yeah. And then within like a couple days, I moved to Chicago. We did the church, which was a crazy time.
Sure was.
Then, yeah. And then Momentum was like, hey, we want you to stay and build our Nike business from Chicago. Yeah. They didn't really have much Nike business at the time.
Yep.
So that's what I did for the next 2 years. And then COVID and all of that kind of shook everything up again. Yeah.
Of course, when you're working with some of these different experiential marketing companies, you know, that's kind of the gift and the curse. Is like when business is good, it's good, right? You're always active, right? When there's a pandemic, as we know what comes with the pandemic, there's no work, there's no money circulating, there's no projects, any of those things. So, which is, you know, it's just kind of where we are in life. But it's, you know, you were able to persevere some things, right? Through a few things. And, you know, traveling and really uprooting your life, which was in Brooklyn, to come to Chicago, you know, you were able to figure things out and get rooted in and get acclimated very quickly to just kind of understand the landscape and what was going on. Tell me a little bit more about the role that you played, like, you know, working with Game 7, work with the Momentum at those companies. What's actually needed from being, you know, in the role that you were in?
Yeah. So I was basically running what people would call like an agency within the larger agency. So I was doing everything from managing revenue, managing daily budgets with the clients, you know, daily conversations with the clients, calls, sourcing talent if we needed an artist or if we needed a barber for something or whatever that was, hiring all those people. I also had a team under me that I worked with. So one person that was full-time, kind of like a coordinator, but then also the creative team and the production team and the finance team and all those people. And then managing up also, making sure that all the people knew everything that we were doing, because it was a lot. We were doing a lot of work and it was just the two of us.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, that's spot on. I think there's something to be said about that. And I think that, and hopefully you can kind of expound on this, excuse me, is, you know, you're still working with some pretty big clients, right? You're still working with sports, yet you're working with kind of the subcontractor that's a part of that business, right? Nike, Jordan, whatever it is. But now you're working with this agency or agencies apart, but you're managing quite a bit. You're, like you said, you're managing, you know, literally almost your own, you're running your own business. And that's what I love about that role. And the time that, you know, obviously seeing you in that, you know, seeing you go through your journey is like, you can do things on your own. You can create, you can manage people, you can manage up, as you said, you know what I mean? And those are all things that just kind of help develop you and, you know, allow for you to become that more well-rounded individual. Yeah.
I mean, it was because of that I was able to realize, like, I can do this on my own.
Yeah.
I'm already doing it. I just need to open my LLC and do some things my own way because I don't want to do it this way anymore. And it was, I said this in the last thing I was in, I don't know if I'll get in trouble for saying this, but it was seeing the numbers that really like opened my eyes, because I knew what my salary was, obviously, but then I would see what the agency was making on all of these projects because I'm managing the budget and I'm managing the finance team and I'm managing the revenue. So it's like, I'm doing all this work, not getting much support from anywhere in this large company, but I'm not really being compensated for, and I hate using the word fair in business, but to me, it was just like, this isn't fair. I'm working so hard. I'm bringing this company so much money and this is what I'm getting out of that. Like, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah. No, you're spot on. I think that these are the real authentic conversations that need to be more outspoken and shared, because I think everyone goes through that piece of like, where is my value placed at, right? The work that I'm doing, I'm putting out there for XYZ company. How am I coming to the table and being, you know, given that the proper resources and the proper pay and all the things that go into that? Like, you have to do a self-assessment and see what your value and your worth is, and also see if the company that you're working for is matching that. And I think that there's value in that. And I think that that's a conversation that should be had a lot more these days than they honestly do.
Yeah. And I'm like, I don't mind talking about money. Like, that's not a conversation that makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So like when people ask me, I'm pretty upfront about it.
Yeah.
Cause I agree. And I do think there's certain people just want to work for someone else, and that's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But there are certain personalities and certain people that are capable of running their own business.
Yep.
And usually we see it in our industry a lot. They somehow get picked out, like, or they pick themselves out, where it's like, okay, that person is doing their own thing now. Makes sense.
Yep, for sure. So tell me this, you know, for those that are listening to the podcast and, you know, you looking back, you know, of course, hindsight being 2020, you looking back on that experience there, how would you kind of, if you will, share your point of view on what that did for you and your career and expose you and open you up to opportunities down the road? Like, what would that do? How would you express that or share that to them?
To what my past experiences did for my career now?
Yeah.
It helped me with my network.
Yeah.
If I didn't have the network that I had, I wouldn't have been able to have the success that I've had in the last 9 months I've had my business.
Yeah.
So that's what, once people heard that I was on my own, they were like, oh, okay. And people started like getting it and jumping on board, like, hey, can you help me with this? Or what do you think about this?
Yeah.
So that was, and so that was like the biggest thing, was like my network is so crazy because of all of the connections that I made through Nike and through the agency and being able to do that work. And then just like I said before, running a business within somebody else's agency, having that like cushion while I kind of figured everything out.
Yeah.
But then now I kind of lifted everything and brought it over to my own thing. And I've changed things, and I definitely do things my own way.
Yeah.
But what I was trying to do my own way over there is so much easier when I don't have anyone to answer to over here.
Yep. So now that takes us to what you're doing now. And so tell us a bit about what now you've transitioned to. We've been through a pandemic. Obviously you left a couple of agencies that you were with before then. So now you're doing your own thing, what you've been doing for the last 9 months. Tell us about what that is.
Yeah. So I started an agency called Agency 32. The reason I named it Agency 32, I love to tell this story, is it comes off of, I fucked around and got a triple double, but I've always seen myself kind of as like a triple threat in the industry. I manage people, I work with brands, I do all different kinds of things. So to me, it was like, those are the types of people I want to work with. Yep. And that's the type of work I'm going to give.
There you go. I love it.
So yeah, so that's where that came from. But we are a full marketing agency. I work with talent, mostly, well, a lot in the women's basketball space, and that's where I'm kind of focusing a lot of time and energy.
Yeah.
But then also still working with brands, just as I was over at the other agencies. So I still work with Nike. I've worked with Gymshark. I've worked with another company called Recess TV. I'm working with the WNBA right now for some All-Star stuff. So yeah, that's what we do.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy to see like the growth and the opportunities that have opened up when you go from literally being in Israel, hey, I don't know what I want to do, to now where you are. Like, that's monumental leaps and bounds over the last 10 years of your career, to be able to say that you've done this to now you're living this entrepreneur space.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy thinking about it. And it's rare that I like step back and think like, oh shit, that was 10 years ago that I had no idea, or I was like upset on graduation day. Like, it's so crazy to think about that. Or even like bringing that down a notch, like 2 years ago when I was laid off and we were in the middle of a pandemic and I had no idea what the hell I was going to do.
Yeah.
And I'm super grateful for what I've done in the last 9 months, and who I've been able to work with. My clients that I manage, like their image and their brand, they are some of the best people. And they make my job easy. And I said it to someone yesterday. I was like, working with me is different because like I've built almost like a family in the people that I work with. So like everyone knows each other. We talk about, like, I always tell them, I'm like, when I'm rich, we're gonna do an Agency 32 mixer, and I'm just gonna fly everyone to a private island or something.
There you go. I love it.
Yeah.
Send me the invite for sure.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. But yeah, that's been like the coolest thing, is just like being able to do things my own way and build the community that I want to build and have the people around me that I want to have around.
Yeah, no, that's dope. That's beauty that you're able to do. So you've created your own agency. What were the steps that were needed to kind of just even start, even some of the basic foundational things that you needed to put in place?
Starting an LLC. So the first thing I did was get a small business lawyer that helped me do that. And then the finance stuff, bank account, working on like organizing everything, hiring a bookkeeper, hiring an accountant. These are still things that I'm figuring out and trying to get right. I've tried it a couple different ways, but still perfecting it.
Yeah.
But that's like the finance thing for me was the biggest thing.
Yep.
Because I'm like, okay, Nike or whoever is sending me $100,000 or X amount of money to execute this project. I can't fuck up that money.
Yep.
Like,
yep.
So
you have a service, you have to put out your best product that you possibly can. And yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So just like having those processes and the right people in place who are the experts to do that stuff, because I know I'm not that person.
Yeah.
That was like the biggest thing. And then last thing I would say is just hiring the right help. I've had to make changes and, you know, go through that. But where I'm at right now, I love my team. We're working on some really dope stuff for this summer, and everyone's kind of like playing their role. And it's also cool because I have all women on my team. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah, I love that. So, and they're all like trying to learn. And I have an intern who's in college, and her she's like intern / my assistant.
Yeah.
But her major is digital marketing. So like that type of stuff is cool to me.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Like, not only are you being a boss, like the person you said you were inspired by with your mom, but now you're also inspiring the next generation with a group of women that are looking to work in sports, which is great. And everyone plays their own role, just as you did, and you get to kind of spearhead and teach them and bring them along the way in a space that you're building, which is awesome.
Yeah, it's cool because I've been them.
Yeah.
So I know how it feels to have a really shitty boss, and I know how it feels to have some really great people.
Yeah.
So I try to err on the side of the really great people.
Yeah, for sure. You know, something that you know, you think about is like being an athlete, you always, when you're transitioning into corporate life, entrepreneur life, you kind of find this space of scariness because it's like the unknown. And of course, you being an entrepreneur and starting your own career and your own agency, there's so much unknown. Like, what fears have you come across that you've overcome, or what fears do you even still have to this day?
One of the most frightening things about having a business or running a business is making sure business still comes in.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much money I'm going to make every month. You know what I mean? Or the goal is to know how much money you're going to make every month, but it's hard. Things fluctuate. Periods of time, different events, whatever it is, they're a pandemic, like whatever it is. But I could make $1 million this month and then make $0 next month. And hopefully that doesn't happen because I try to plan better than that. Right. But that's the reality of it. So that's my thing, is just making sure that I'm planning ahead in managing all the things that I manage. Business growth is another thing that is like big on my plate, and it's my responsibility. It's not anybody else's. That's not something I can give to anyone else just yet. So that's the most frightening thing. It's just like making sure 6 months, a year, 5 years, 10 years from now, I still have a business. Yeah.
No, that's spot on there. No, that's great value there in that information for sure. So you've already said you got tons of clients right now, some great opportunities that you're building and thriving in. What's next? What else are you working on, kind of planning for the future, as you said?
Yeah. So with the people that I manage, it's just helping build them up, get them some great deals, some sponsorships and things like that. I have one of my clients actually she was a professional volleyball player, and she was Miss Indiana USA. And then now she just got accepted into training camp for the WWE.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I'm really excited about that. And she's dope. Her name is Alexis Letty. She's super dope and already has built her own following just like naturally on her own without the WWE. So I think she's going to go nuts in that.
Yeah.
Chloe Pavlik, of course, was overtime Chloe. She's like a celebrity in girls basketball for little girls. Like we'll be walking through the airport and it's like little girls going crazy over Chloe. And then, I'm trying to build my NIL business. I have Jaden Owens, who's amazing, plays at Baylor. Yep. I just signed yesterday, actually, Jana, who just transferred from Stanford to Baylor. So doing a lot there. And then I'm trying to get more into the WNBA. So I pitched a bunch of ideas to the WNBA for All-Star Weekend, which is in Chicago, which is very exciting. So I'm working on a bunch of events with them, and then also my own events for the weekend, just to kind of like get my brand out there.
Yeah.
I kind of want people to pull up to Chicago and be like, why am I seeing Agency 3-2 everywhere?
Everywhere, yeah.
And they look at the website and it's yours truly.
There you go.
Yeah. So a lot of turn up, a lot of fun things happening All-Star Weekend. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. That'll be a good time.
That's awesome. No, so super dope to be able to hear this journey and understand a little bit of the background of where you come from and how you've endured and persevered through so many things, and to see where your success is right now. Here, last question for you. Like, for those that are like, who are currently going through their journey in their athletic career, who may be playing professionally overseas, things of that nature, what advice would you tell them that you've learned through your journey that you think that is advantageous for them to know?
Yeah. You can cut me thinking, right?
Oh, of course.
God, I forget what I said last time. I don't want to say the same thing. What advice would I give someone? I would say, okay, so advice that I would give someone else coming up is just do good business.
Yeah.
That's one thing. And I've talked about my network and all the great people that I know, but one thing that I would say 99.9% of people that have worked with me can say is that I do what's right by everyone involved. And I think that's the biggest thing is just being a good person, doing right by the people around you, and then the money will come.
Yeah.
And it's not all about dollars and cents. And of course we all want to make money, but if you do the right thing, you trust your gut, you make sure the people around you are good,
yep,
you'll make the money and it'll come.
I love it. I love it. No, you're spot on there. A lot of people go chasing after the money, and yes, that can be a goal, but it's really just a tool to get you to the next space. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So
exactly.
Don't always have that as like the one pie star in the sky that you're going for. Like, there are other things along the way that you can learn for sure.
Exactly.
No, this is super dope, Taylor. I appreciate you being on. Tell the people where they can follow you, follow Agency 3-2. Like, where can they stay in tune with you at?
Yeah, so you can follow me _ Taylor Jae, and then follow the agency at Agency 3_2, and then also website agency3-2.com.
Awesome. Well, we will definitely tap in. We'll throw it right there below so people can definitely check you out there. Again, appreciate you being on another episode of the Second Half Podcast. We really appreciate you. Thank you. For those, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe button, check out the website at thesecondhalfpod.com. We'll be back with another episode. We'll see you. Peace.